Alright, this is a 2017 Silverado. Our concern is the engine cooling fans are remaining on. Now, normally, I know by default that's going to be the engine coolant temperature sensor. Why? Well, the diagnosis for this is quite easy. As you can see, there's going to be an engine coolant temperature sensor gauge here at 160 to 260. Normally, typically, you want it around 210 after the engine has been running for quite a while. At 160, it's a default if it goes bad. Now, I was driving the vehicle last night. It was 44 degrees. It could take quite a while to reach that operating temperature. It remained at 160 after 15 minutes at driving. I noticed when I pulled over, the cooling fans are remaining on. They stay on even after I turn off the vehicle. The gauge remained at 160, did not change. Those are the two indications that verify that the engine coolant temperature sensor is bad. You can run a test on the sensor itself, check resistance, and you can run a scan tool and possibly get a code for it. And my indication is that it didn't throw a check engine light or anything. I'm not going to scan the vehicle. I know it's the sensor itself. The gauge itself stays at 160, and the cooling fans remain on. By default, if a sensor is bad, it will go to a certain value, and since the sensor cannot pick up the readings, it will turn on the cooling fans at max power in order from the engine to not overheat. So it needs to be replaced. I'll show you a video right now how to replace it. Thank you. Alright, we're replacing the engine coolant temperature sensor on the 17 Silverado 1500. First things first, we're going to remove the 8mm socket right here, or a flathead screwdriver. Remove the intake from the throttle body. Remove this line here. Just press and hold and pull out. Remove the intake. Once you remove the intake, alright, we're replacing the engine coolant temperature sensor for the 17 Silverado on a V6 motor. Now you remove the intake. As soon as you remove the intake, quite simple for that. You can see the sensor right there. Just disconnect this electrical connector, and of course it's going to be, I believe, a 19mm socket. Remove it, replace it, and we should be good right next to the thermostat housing. Alright. Alright, 2017 engine coolant temperature sensor replacement. Here's the old one. It's a 19mm socket. It's 15 foot-pounds or 180 inch-pounds. Is the torque spec. There's the replacement. As you can see, just a connector and a 19mm socket. You will lose a very small amount of coolant. Just clean it up with some brake clean and you should be good. Alright, here's the overview for the 2017 Silverado engine coolant temperature sensor replacement. Our concern was the cooling fan remaining on and the gauge remaining at 160. Went ahead and replaced the sensor. After replacement, I did cycle the key 3 times to make sure that the system will do a self-test per cycle. Turn on the vehicle. The engine would remain at 160, and the oil pressure gauge went up to around 70 psi, which is way above normal. I went ahead and just shut off the vehicle, disconnected the battery for 5 minutes, and ran my scan tool on it. I got an Autel scan tool. Excuse my dog for barking, but got my Autel scan tool. Went ahead and did a full scan on the vehicle. Saved the report, and of course there was no codes for the engine coolant temperature sensor gauge or anything. I did disconnect the battery. That might have had an effect to it, but I didn't run a scan on it prior. I know it's good practice to go ahead and scan the vehicle and make sure everything's good, but since I already know what the problem is, I went ahead and bypassed that. So I ran the scan after. I noticed the oil pressure sensor was at 70 psi and the gauge would stay at 160 even after replacement. Cleared the code, cycled the key 3 more times, turn on the vehicle. Oil pressure is now where I want it. Temperature gauge is going up, and I'm looking at live data. Everything seems to be good. There's no fault codes, and I think we're looking good. I think our repair is good. The gauge is going up as it's designed. It's around 185 degrees. Cooling fans are not on. Then we're good to go. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to reach out to me. If you want the torque spec for the sensor, it was 180 inch-pounds or 15 foot-pounds. Alright, have a good one.